Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I want to talk about the first 10 minutes of Daryl Dixon because it's actually out now and I watched all of it and man, this show is going to be so good. Like I just have so much faith in the show already, just considering all the small details that were added into here. Like it seems like that's generally the quality that we can expect from these spinoff shows. So I'm definitely really excited about that. So obviously before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. I do have a Rick and Michonne trailer video coming out later on today. I'm going to be talking about that, and also I do want to get into some Daryl Dixon / Laurent like Cure storyline stuff because it seems like we're sort of going there like with this show. I want to get into that, and also some Variant Walker stuff because there's some stuff that happens in this episode that seems to tease what's to come in terms of Variant Walkers and all of that. And so I really want to get into that because some people were a little worried that we weren't getting them, but it seems like no, we are for sure getting them in this show. So honestly, just watching the first 10 minutes really shows why AMC did renew this for a season 2. Like the quality of this show is just absolutely incredible. I think that the spinoff so far, you can sort of see the general vibes from both shows. And Dead City, you know, a lot of people might prefer that show. Like they might prefer that overall vibe. But with the Daryl Dixon show, some people might prefer that because they're both just so different from each other. And, you know, Rick and Michonne, I imagine that show is going to feel a lot like classic Walking Dead. Like that's just sort of my prediction anyways. It could feel very different. I'm not entirely sure. Based off of what we've seen so far, it does kind of feel more like classic Walking Dead. Almost like they're going back to like a season 4, season 5 type of feel anyways, based off of the visuals that we saw. You know, that very dark and just like very cinematic feeling there. And I think that's kind of what to expect from that. Daryl Dixon, though, I mean, they're going in a really weird place, but I like that. I like the fact that they're actually exploring these aspects to The Walking Dead and they're actually doing something different that is actually exciting and makes sense. Like that's the important part here, is that it actually makes sense with the story, why these things are happening and why the storyline is going to be what the storyline is. So in the very beginning of the episode, we do hear Judith's voiceover. It is from the final season of The Walking Dead. There was nothing there in terms of anything new recorded or anything like that. So I'm just going to guess as of now that that's probably all it was. So when people say that Judith's returned, I don't think so. I think if anything, it's probably just more of a, like, we're hearing her and all that, but it's probably just like a flashback scene or something. So, but we do see Daryl arrive on the beach and he is very confused. It was so cool to actually see like that this was the opening shot. Like it's literally just him in the water and then he arrives on the beach. And everybody is so confused at this point, right? Like us, the audience, we're all wondering like, how did he get here? Like what happened? And it's funny how the show doesn't really tell us that immediately. Obviously, that's the mystery here, right? We're going to be wondering, how did he get here? And we'll probably learn through some dialogue. There's going to be some scenes here and there that show us what happened. Honestly, I feel like the way it's going to be structured is it's going to feel a lot like Dead City in terms of just like the random flashbacks here and there. Like we got that flashback of Simon, right? And that just sort of randomly appeared in the very beginning of the episode. And then it cut to Negan just sort of thinking about that moment, right? I feel like it's probably going to be something like that where in episode 2, 3, 4 or something, you know, we're going to have like the opening of the episode, Daryl doing something or whatever, and then something happens and we sort of get the explanation as to how he ended up there. And then all of a sudden it cuts to him just like thinking about that moment kind of thing. It could be like that, or there could be more mystery to it. We'll have to wait and see. But what I really like about this opening scene here is that the shots are very similar to Days Gone By, at least like similar arrangements of shots and scenery to Rick Grimes' first episode, because we have Daryl waking up and he's like out of it, you know, similar to Rick. He's walking through an empty town seemingly. We see like broken down cars and stuff like that. There's bikes and all that. Like this is what Rick was doing in the first episode, right? He was just sort of walking around, like just looking at everything and was wondering like what's happening here. And we see Daryl sort of doing the same thing, although he already knows that they're living in an apocalypse, right? So I just thought it was a really cool thing to see, just visually. You know, the first like 4 or 5 minutes really mirrored Rick's first episode, which was kind of cool. Daryl does find this boat. He finds some water in there. Again, like these are the small details that I really like. This was the stuff that in the final season, and not even just the final season, like the last few seasons, they didn't focus on these small details of survival. This is the stuff that people want. Like we want to see how they survive. We want to see all the small details like that. Like he gets to a boat, he finds his bottle of water and he has to drink it because he's just that thirsty. But at this point, he's probably smart enough to be like, no, I'm just going to take a few sips and I'm going to save that water. Just everything in this scene I thought was really incredible in terms of just how he finds certain things. He just, he finds a bunch of supplies and he packs into a bag. He finds a new outfit and all that. And then he ventures out and sort of goes out on a journey. Like, I really just like the fact that we actually saw that, and it explains why he was able to travel across France throughout the first like few minutes of this episode, because we do get a montage of that. He does find a tape recorder though, and he listens to this man who is sort of discussing how he arrived in France. And it seems like he actually circled Spain. Like, he actually says he circled Spain. So I'm actually wondering, the reference to Spain, I feel like, is a direct connection to Rick Grimes' brother. Now, obviously, it's the comic version. It's likely just an Easter egg. I don't know if they're going to get to that part of it. Like, you do got to wonder, like, was the person he was listening to on that radio, was that Rick's brother? Probably not. I mean, I know there's going to be theories out there on that, right? But I do think that the mention of Spain and all of that, especially when, if you're having that in a line of dialogue, like what that's going to do for Walking Dead fans, like people are going to think immediately, oh, this is an Easter egg to Rick's brother, right? So I think that that's probably all it is. I think it was just an Easter egg to the comic. And the reason why I say that it had to have been an Easter egg was because it's on a boat as well, and Rick Grimes' brother died on a boat. So it just seems like a little bit of an Easter egg there, right? Like it does kind of feel like it's connected a little bit there. But I do want to clarify, I don't actually think this is a reference to Rick's brother. Like I think just generally the fact that they came from Spain and they were in this boat, the same type of boat that Rick's brother was on, I think those things are just Easter eggs for the comic. But I think it's just, it's nothing more than that. I mean, if you look back to like season 10 and episode 19, I think it's episode 19, I believe it was the Aaron and Gabriel episode. Like, there was a bottle of alcohol, I believe, that they were drinking that was called Dwayne Jones or something like that, which obviously isn't Dwayne Jones's like own alcohol brand that he has, right? Like, it's just more of a reference to Morgan's son, but it's not actually like anything connected, right? So I think it's sort of the same thing here. Like, they're in a very similar boat here, that they've arrived to France from Spain, and I think that's probably, because Daryl's actually in the location and they're able to actually make a connection there, I think that's all it is. But this is how he finds out that he is in France. He finds out he's in France because this man is discussing how he got here, then he opens up a map, and then he just sort of follows along with, what he's saying, and then he's like, okay, so I'm in France. That explains why everything I'm seeing is in French. So to him now, he's like, all right, somehow I'm here. And you do see this visible, just like this visible frustration on him. And he's just like, I don't know if he's scared or what, but like, he's so far away from home, right? So like, now he's probably wondering like, how do I get back? Like I'm over here now. Like, how do I get across the ocean? Is there even a way for me to get back across the ocean? Like, he's got to be concerned about a few things like that, right? He's likely processing a lot of that, and all that's going through his mind. So yeah, it's kind of cool to see that frustration there. And we do see Daryl with a penguin. The first thing I thought, is this a nod to Penguin Bloom with Andrew Lincoln? Maybe. I mean, it's just a stuffy, but I feel like this is a slight nod to that, because obviously Penguin Bloom was the first movie that Andrew Lincoln did after he left The Walking Dead. So yeah, kind of a cool Easter egg there, I'd say. But then we see Daryl travel far into France, and he's climbing mountains and like all these many structures. He finally arrives at this laboratory, and it's the same lab that we saw in World Beyond's post-credit scene, or World Beyond Season 2's post-credit scene. And, it's really cool that he went there. And the first thing that I thought when he was going inside was like, there's got to be some sort of reference to something. Like, I was thinking, this is the first 10 minutes. Something's going to happen here where it sort of ends in a way where we're sort of wondering, like, well, what's going to happen next? Or like, oh, whoa, that was really cool, right? Since we're going into this lab, there has to be something special here, right? And then, of course, we see these walkers show up, and then Daryl fights these walkers, and then he gets burnt by a walker with acid blood or something like that, at least in my opinion. Like, it seemed like its blood was very acidic, because there's this one walker where you just see the veins popping out of its face, and it's like, yeah, I guess the blood's just like that hot. Like, it's very, very acidic, and you gotta wonder like what the scientists here were actually doing to these people. I mean, there's probably a lot there, right? Like, they were experimenting, it seems like. I really do feel like that's sort of where the show is going. I do think there's probably just a lot of normal walkers, but there's probably a lot of walkers that were experimented on, because they probably did quite a bit of stuff experimenting on people, probably to try find a cure, or maybe not. Maybe they were trying to use it as some sort of weapon, right? So you do got to wonder if that's where they're going with some of this stuff here, because that was just, it's interesting to find these walkers with like this acidic blood, and Daryl got burnt by that. So you got to wonder what's going to happen to Daryl now. Like, I'm actually, honestly, very, very just interested in that, because if you think about the actual technicalities of it, like the walker's blood is very acidic. It burnt Daryl. Maybe it burnt him to the point where, you know, like he's safe and he's fine. Maybe you can't turn from that. But like, I don't know, like if it gets infected or something, like there's a good chance Daryl could just turn and become a walker. Now, obviously he's not going to, because the show's going to go on for many seasons, but I'm just curious as to where they go now. And now I'm just thinking about all of those scenes that we got from the teaser where he does run into those nuns, and it looks like they're actually like treating him and they're branding him, it seems, though I don't know if they're branding him anymore or if they're just like killing the infection. I'm not entirely sure, because this does connect overall with what it seems to be a cure storyline. It seems like this show is going to be getting into that a little bit. It seems like these nuns here believe that Laurent is actually immune to the Walker virus. At least that's kind of the vibes I'm getting here. And so Daryl needs to deliver him to a certain place. And that, obviously, people are going to be making like The Last of Us jokes. I'm going to do a video talking about this later on today. I just wanted to kind of do a review here, but that storyline is very, very fascinating, because if he is actually immune, if this is actually a real thing, honestly, Laurent could be such a big character in the Walking Dead universe. Like, he could actually be legit a really big character in the Walking Dead universe, and you almost want him to come back to America, right? Like, when Daryl eventually gets back to America at some point, you'd likely want him to come back there to meet everybody, and like, more than that, just what if they can find some sort of cure, you know, through that. And so yeah, anyways, I'll do a video on that later on today. We'll talk about a lot of the cure storyline stuff, and I'll break down the trailer a little bit more as it relates to this storyline, because it seems like that's sort of where they're going with this show. But yeah, you know what, the first 10 minutes I thought were just incredible. I thought the first 10 minutes just really perfectly encapsulated what this show was going to be about. And it's amazing, because Daryl, he can actually lead a show. Like, I mean, I guess technically we should have saw that with The Walking Dead, but watching this show, I'm just like, you know what? You can totally lead this show. And it's kind of cool to think that Carol's eventually going to be here as well. Like, there's just so much about it that is just really awesome. And everyone at San Diego Comic-Con, or who was in Hall H anyways, actually got to watch the first 20 minutes. So they got to see 10 minutes more of what we just saw here. So, yeah, we'll have to see what's next here, but I mean, the episode is likely 40-something minutes. We just watched roughly a quarter of it. I imagine the rest of the episode is going to be him sort of exploring certain areas, being treated, I guess, for his wound, and then I guess at some point near the end of the episode, he's probably going to meet Laurent, or probably meet, you know, although maybe not, maybe that's rushing it a little bit. Maybe that's in episode 2. That's sort of their goal overall there. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm really excited for this show. It's looking really good. So post all your thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.